Hey, my name's James Wilkinson and welcome to my YouTube channel. Now in this video, I want to talk about will all this difficulty pushed onto landlords mean that rents will continue to rise? Now, I know that landlords are an easy scapegoat. It's very easy to put them as the people to blame for the housing problem. But there's a lot more behind it than that. And we're going to delve deep on this video to make sure we talk about everything that is contributing to rents rising and what that means for landlords and renters alike. Now, before we jump into that, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. We just hit 5,000 subscribers. That's a huge milestone, and we did that in a year. We've got new content every single day. I think we're one of the only property channels that does it daily and has done for a year now. So if you subscribe, you'll see all that content. And while you're here, smash that like button, guys. Go on, smash that like button over there. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm. So what's the problem in the housing market at the moment? Well, fundamentally, the big issue is that there is not enough property. That's, in a nutshell, the biggest issue that we've got. I just filmed a video just now, and that video I've been putting together for a little while, and we'll talk about statistics, London prices, southern prices, northern prices. And it was really, really interesting to see that we often talk about population growth, and the population growth is because we're a small island is going to really significantly mean that prices continue to go up in the UK. But what was interesting was that when I was researching that, it's not the population so much it's the problem. It's more the amount of households that we're expecting to get. We're expecting to add 5.6 million households, 5.6 million households in the next 10 years. That means we don't have nearly enough houses. We're meant to be building hundreds of thousands per year. We're not even building 150,000. So we're massively behind on that. So that's going to cause rents to go up. Now, there's also a lot of anti-landlord stuff out there in the property world. It's very easy to bash landlords, and it's very easy to blame them for house prices going up, even though they're a small fraction of the market. Very easy to blame them for rents going up. But what's really happening, and why is this stuff really important that we get some sort of solution? Well, the biggest issue that we've had for landlords recently is something called Section 24. Right? Now, Section 24 is where if you're a landlord and you rent your property out, you now pay tax on the gross rent. So if you get £1,000 in rent, you pay tax on that £1,000. Now, with most businesses, you would pay tax on the profit. Every other business pays tax on their profit. It's called corporation tax. Landlords now have to pay it on the gross rent. So even if the boiler breaks, even if the mortgage rates go up, all of these things that are impacting them, they will pay tax on that, and they'll pay tax at their personal tax rate, which could be 50%. So let's say you've got £500 in rent. Let's draw this so it's easier to see. Let's just say you've got £1,000 in rent, You've got £500 in rent. Now you're a 50% taxpayer. You're going to pay £500 in tax per month on that property. Now, what happens if the interest rate goes up? So your mortgage payment goes up. You're now negative. What happens if your boiler breaks? What happens if you've got estate agent fees, which you do? What happens if you have voids? What happens if you have other maintenance? You could be losing money because of Section 24. A lot of landlords wised up to that, and that's why 30% of landlords have left the market. Our populations are growing, the households are growing in the UK, but we've got 30% less rental stock. Supply and demand dictates that obviously house prices will go up. I saw articles in the newspaper about 6 months ago where hundreds of people queued up to view one property in Northern Ireland. Hundreds and hundreds of people did that. That doesn't indicate that rents are going to drop anytime soon. Now, what else is hitting landlords? You have something called selective licensing in certain areas. Now, license. Now, I don't think these are necessarily a bad thing, but it's an extra cost. So in Hastings, you have to have something called a selective license. Costs you around £500 per property just to be a landlord. Now, that's good. It checks a few things. I don't think it really checks much though. It checks, are you a fit and proper person? You just tick a box to say yes. They don't really check anything about your insurance or anything like that, but you pay them money. And so they make money. There's no real, I mean, I think anyone can pretty much get this license. It's just a tick box exercise that generates that council a little bit more money. That gets passed on to tenants because landlords put their rents up because of that. So selective licensing is something as well. You've got something called Section 21 at the moment, which allows you to get rid of a tenant through no fault eviction. Now, the reason this is getting taken away is landlords' fault, really, because some landlords have been bad landlords. And so they've just got rid of tenants, particularly with the rising rents, with the rising rents. And so they kick people out, no fault eviction, and then they've got more tenants to replace them that will pay them significantly more. Now that's potentially going. There's some other legislation that may come in, but that puts people off because the landlord wants to be able to get their property back if they require it for some reason. And you weren't going to be able to do that. If that Section 21 gets written off and you don't have any legislation to replace it, it means if you get a shitty tenant that you won't be able to get them out. If they stop paying rent, then you take them to court and they catch up a little bit just before court. Then you'll have that process that you can't evict them because they've caught up. Then they can stop paying their rent again and it can go round in a cycle. Or what if they're upsetting all the other neighbours? And maybe you've got other properties in that property and you're losing tenants because this one person is being really difficult. So they're looking to replace that with something else that you can get people out if they're unruly and in rent arrears. But they were talking about just getting rid of that. That made more landlords leave. With Section 21, with Section 24, Section 21, these two things were putting people off. What else is the problem here? We've got interest rates, right? This is hitting everyone. I get that, right? Yeah, so interest rates are going up. So that means payments go up. But what some people don't understand is how much this hits landlords. Now, when you have a mortgage on your home that you live in, you would have it on what's called a repayment mortgage. So if your rate was 5% and it went up to 10%, your mortgage wouldn't necessarily double because some of that is the interest and some of it is the monthly repayment to pay down the debt. But a landlord is on an interest-only mortgage. So if the rate goes from 1% to 2%, which it did, they might have been paying 200 quid for their rent, for their mortgage. Now they're paying 400 quid. Then it went from 2% to 4%. Now they might be paying 800 quid. So their mortgage could have tripled just with the interest rate rises that we've had already. That's wiping out this profit, making this Section 24 that little bit harder, isn't it? And so all of these things, look, I'm not asking you to get your violin out for landlords, but what I'm saying is it's contributing to higher rents. Because if your mortgage payment goes from 200 to 800 or 200 to 400, you're going to put your rent up. 100% you're going to put the rent up. And that's really not going to help. And one other thing that not so many people are talking about is these EPCs, energy performance certificates. Now, I think it's great to be green or drive a Tesla. I love it. And so, yeah, I'm looking at getting solar on my main property I live in. I absolutely believe that we need to go green, but the government doesn't really understand that some properties you can't get to the level that they need. So what is EPC? Stands for Energy Performance Certificate. And they go from, I think, F to A being the best. The government's saying that you've got to get it to a level C by 2025. Potentially that's now been pushed back to 2028. But some properties you couldn't do that. A terrace house that's a Victorian terrace house in London, you're not going to be able to do that. A listed building, you're not going to be able to get it to a level C. It's just not possible. And what the government's saying is that you may not be able to rent it out if you do that. That is now making more landlords again say, I'm out of this. I'm leaving this market. I've had good times. I'm cashing in now while going's good, while prices are still peaking. And I'm out the market. Now, all of this stuff is kind of anti-landlord and the government, it's easy, as I said, to bash landlords. But what you've got to understand is if you want your rent to come down, then you need more landlords. You need more properties for rent. The more properties on the market, the lower the rent will be. The more you push landlords out the market, the higher the rent will be. So that's my thoughts on it. I feel that if you keep pushing landlords, you're going to end up with an even worse scenario than we're in right now. Let me know your thoughts, though. Do comment below. What do you think? Do you think rents are just going to carry on rising? I think they're going to raise quicker than inflation still. If none of this gets changed, let's just say another 10% of landlords leave the market. It's going to have a huge strain. Let me know your thoughts. Do like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Check out all the other content on my channel, including this video right here.